Today I want to share with you 7 off-season tips to really help you maximize your off-season and get ready to make 2021 your best season yet. So I really think you're going to enjoy this video. Let's get started. So tip number 1 is rest, recap, and then re-attack. Okay, now baseball season is pretty physically demanding on your body. Hopefully you avoided any serious injuries or major setbacks. But it is what it is. Baseball season, you're gonna have a little bit of aches and a little bit of pains at the end of the season. So I think it's very important for you to take a little bit of time off, for you to let your body heal, recover, and just let your body rest. So I think you should take some time off from throwing. And personally, I think you should take some time away from the game, period. Whether you play other sports and you do that for a little while, or if you like to play baseball most of the year, I still think it's very important at the end of a season for you to take at least a couple weeks off. Just let your body rest up. You've probably got a lot of overuse going on with throwing every day and running all the time. Your joints and everything else could use a little bit of a break. So the first step after the season, I think, is rest. And while you're resting, then it's great for you to recap. What I mean is recap the previous season that just ended. Okay, so how did the season go? How did your team do this season? How did you do this season? I'm usually the one that always tells you to forget about stats because that's an outcome goal and instead focus on the process. But during this time when you're recapping, I think it's important for you to look at your stats. How did your team do and how did you do individually? What was your batting average? How many RBIs? And you'll start to see trends on what went well and what are some of the biggest areas that you can improve. Okay, so we're resting and then we're recapping. During this recapping phase, you can also, do an honest evaluation of yourself. I think it's very important for you to get real and raw on your strengths and weaknesses and even write them down. You don't have to show anybody, but write them down. Don't kid yourself. Be honest with yourself because that's his first step in getting better. And then have a coach, a coach that is going to give you the truth. Have him do a coach evaluation of you and your performance and just tell him, look, I want the brutal reality of the situation so that I can, return next year. I can work on these things and become better for next season. And hopefully you have a coach that'll do that and it'll be an eye-opening experience for you. So we're resting, we're recapping and figuring out our strengths and weaknesses, how the season went. Were we consistent with our results? Were we streaky and inconsistent? Just overall, how did it go? So rest, recap, and then it's time to reattack. Once we've rested and we've figured out, what we need to work on to get better for the upcoming season, then it's time to put in the work. And one of the worst things you can do is waste an off season. It'd be a terrible thing for the only thing that changes is the weather and the seasons that go by. But it happens so often to players, right? They go through their spring season and then they don't really do much in the summer and then they don't really do much in the fall and the winter time, and all of a sudden it's spring again and they're not transformed at all. They're not a better player. They're just the same player and it's just a new season, right? So don't let that be you. You've got to transform yourself and actually get better in the off season. It starts with this: rest, recap, and then reattack. Tip number 2, think off season big, in season small. What do I mean by this? Well, the off season is the perfect time for you to make big changes. But on the flip side, during the season, it's tough to make big changes. You need to focus on making small adjustments, whether that be with your approach and your game plan or very small mechanical tweaks at practice. But it's very hard to make significant major overhauls and big changes during the season. It is what it is. It's hard for you to learn how to, go from, maybe a regular load and stride to a leg kick or a toe tap in the middle of the season. You're going to have a big adjustment period. You're probably not going to perform very well in games when you do that. So maybe during the season is not the time for you to do that. Again, during the season, maybe it's time to work on just minor little course corrections, right, with your plan and approach and little tweaks in practice, but that's about it. However, that being said, in the off season, this is the time to make big changes. So think about, what big changes do you need to make? Is there something that you really need to work on in your swing? Is it a major overhaul that you need to do with your mechanics? Is it something with your throwing mechanics that you really need to work on? Okay, one of the biggest things that you need to focus on, in my mind, we're talking about big changes in the off season, is you need to work on putting on some size in the weight room, because the reality is you should be lifting weights during the season to maintain some of your strength and avoid injury, essentially, right? Because you got to have a strong body. But the reality is it's very difficult for you to put on muscle during the season. The reason being is because you're burning off so many calories at practice and during games, and it's going to be very hard for you to consume enough calories for you to be in a caloric surplus in order for you to gain weight and to gain muscle mass. That's the way it works, right? It's just a numbers game. In order to gain weight, you've got to be in a caloric surplus. But if you're running around for 3 or 4 hours a day, you're burning so many calories, it's tough to do that during the season. Pretty much what you're doing at that point is maintaining. So I think that's the biggest thing to work on. You know, think big in the off season. Think about making a big change with your body. That's going to help you throw harder. It's going to help you improve your bat speed so you hit the ball harder, all that good stuff. So think big in the off season, and then during the season, it's got to be little stuff. Tip number 3, the best training is the real thing. Whether you're a position player or you're a pitcher, nothing compares to live at bats. So I encourage you, as a pitcher, you need to be facing live hitters in the offseason as often as you possibly can. And as a hitter, you need to be facing live pitching. You need to recognize pitches out of the hand. You need to get your timing down. There's nothing that's going to prepare you more for real game situations than actually, you know, going out there and doing it. We talk all the time about making practice baseball specific and making it game-like, and there's no other, you know, thing that's going to compare as much to a game as getting live at bats in the offseason. So I know it's difficult to do. I know that, you know, everybody, kind of separates. You don't have your entire team together in the offseason, but I'm telling you, whether you're a pitcher or a position player, do whatever it takes to try to get live at bats as often as possible. You know, there's a book out there called "You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar." And I think it's so true. You can watch all these videos, right? And you can, you know, hit off of the tee, and you can hit in batting practice. And as a pitcher, you can work on your pitches in a bullpen setting. But at the end of the day, one of the best ways to become a better hitter, you talk about, you know, you can watch videos on timing, or watch videos on seeing the ball better, or watch videos on recognizing pitches better, hitting curveballs better, 2-strike hitting, you name it. You can go out there and you can research that kind of stuff. But the best way to get better at it is to actually do it, right? The best way to, you know, see the ball better and recognize pitches better is to go out there and actually do it in real life. Same thing with your 2-strike hitting approach. It's great to learn, okay, what minor mental adjustments and physical adjustments do I need to make in the box when I have 2 strikes, but it's even better to put yourself in that situation in real life. So I know it's difficult, but there's nothing more game-like than real live at-bats. Find a way this offseason to get it done. This 4th tip is going to help a lot of you guys out. Wake up and get your work done. This specifically applies for summer break and winter break when you don't have school, okay? So what I'm getting at here is I think it's best for you to get up and get your work done first thing in the morning before you do anything else. And the reason being is because if baseball is a priority to you, then you need to make sure that you get your work done. And the reality is, you know, it's so great to wake up and get it done first thing, because then you don't have any anxiety later on in the day about, you know, I still need to later on do X, Y, and Z. Plus, your willpower is the absolute strongest when you first wake up. But as the day progresses, as it moves on, it becomes easier and easier for you to say things like, you know, I'm not really feeling like working out today. I'll work out tomorrow. I need to rest today. I'll work out tomorrow. I'll go hit tomorrow. And it's easier for you to push things off the longer and longer the day goes by. So my suggestion, wake up and get it done first thing, because you gotta do your priorities. And if baseball is a priority to you, and if getting better is a priority to you, then I think that you should knock that out when your willpower is the strongest, first thing in the morning. What is tip number 5? Tip number 5 is this: be intentional every day. Too many baseball players in the offseason are too vanilla with their goals. They say things like, I'm gonna go out there and get better today, or I'm gonna hit off the tee today. I'm gonna have coach hit me some ground balls today. But my challenge to you is, what are you working on? Are you working on your plate discipline and only swinging at good pitches, only swinging at strikes? Are you working on hitting the ball where it's pitched and hitting the ball to all fields? So on inside pitches, are you working on pulling it, because that's where you should hit that ball? Middle pitches, are you working on driving it right back up the box? Away pitches, are you letting the ball travel a little bit deeper and hitting it hard to the opposite field? ground balls, that's great, you're working on ground balls, but what specifically are you working on? Are you spending additional time, working on your backhands today? So I encourage you, quit being so vanilla with your goals, get laser focused, be intentional every single day with something that you're specifically working to improve. The sixth thing I recommend you do this off season is eat how you want to play. So if you want to play great, you need to eat great. If you want to play like a champion, eat like a champion. But if you eat a bunch of junk food, well then what do you think your performance on the field is going to look like? I mean, it sounds cliche, but it is so true. You get out what you put in. So the biggest thing, focus on eating real, wholesome, nutritious foods. Stay away from the sugar, stay away from the processed stuff. And if you really want to take this to the next level, I highly encourage you to do some research on macros, okay? Macronutrients, in other words, protein, fat, and carbs. And I promise you, an eye-opening experience is learning how to track your macros, okay? Your macros are gonna add up to, how many grams of protein you eat, how many grams of fats, how many grams of carbs. All of that is gonna add up to your total caloric intake, and it's so important whether your goal is to, decrease body fat, maybe cut a little bit of weight, or increase muscle mass, maybe gain weight. It all comes down to macros, and it all comes down to calories in, calories out. And so many people think that it's this magical thing. It's not magic, it's math. So I encourage you, I'm not gonna get into it here on this video, but do some research on macros, start eating the right amount of protein, fats, and carbs for whatever your goals are. And I'm telling you, it's not magic, it's math. You're gonna be blown away if you start tracking this stuff. It's such an eye-opening experience. You're gonna love it, and it's gonna directly help you so much on the field, you don't even realize it. So eat how you want to play. You want to play great, you better start eating great. And the last tip I want to leave you with is lean into discomfort. So in the first tip, we talked about recapping your previous season and getting real and raw and authentic and honest about your strengths and your weaknesses. So what I'm talking about here is lean into things that are uncomfortable, meaning attack your weaknesses. And as humans, that's not something that's fun to do. So let's say that one of your weaknesses is hitting curveballs. Well, the last thing that you want to do at practice is set up the machine and work on hitting curveballs, right? Because it's uncomfortable and you're not good at. We want to do things that we're good at. So you'd rather just hit off of the tee, hit a couple buckets off the tee and call it a day, or you'd rather just take BP, right? You don't want to do things that make you uncomfortable. But the reality is, growth is what happens when you're outside your comfort zone. So it's so important to get real. First of all, first step is get real about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and then attack those weaknesses. And the thing is, whenever you don't feel like doing something, that is probably the thing that you should do the most, okay? So if you're like, man, I really don't want to hit curveballs today because you're not any good at it and it's not any fun and it's uncomfortable to work on that, that's probably the thing that you need to work on the most. So lean into the discomfort. That's only going to help you improve your weaknesses and get you so much better and get you so ready for the upcoming season. I hope these tips help you have a great off season, and I wish you nothing but success in the upcoming season. So good luck. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, if you found it helpful, please smash that like button. I would really appreciate that. So turn it blue right now, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. That way you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Be sure to hit that little notification bell down there so you're notified. And last thing, hitters, I put together a free resource for you that's really gonna help you get ready for the upcoming season. It's called the Contact Point Checklist, and you can download it by just clicking on the link down below in the description, or I'll leave that link down in the comment section as well, so it's easy to find. But I know that's really gonna help you. Go download that right now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.